Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the All Mercy Psychiatry and Integrative Care podcast once more. Wherever you're watching from, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are so happy to have you here. Or for those who will be watching later, you're welcome as well. And we are honored that you chose our podcast to watch or listen to, where we talk about mental wellness, emotional healing, and everyday things that shape our peace of mind. Today, we are talking about a very interesting topic, something many of us struggle with, mostly silently: money and self worth. Why do our bank accounts feel so personal? I mean, it is a bank account. Why does it touch us at this kind of personal level? Why does sometimes spending on ourselves make us feel so guilty? How does financial pressure affect our relationships, our identity, especially our mental health? Whether you grew up hearing money doesn't grow from trees, or you're constantly comparing your lives to others, mostly in social media, you're not alone. In this episode today, we are diving deep into the money shame, into financial boundaries, into people pleasing, and how to untangle your self worth from your wallet. I have none other. Oh my God. I am. It felt like I just saw you, right? I want us to have an honest conversation, compassionate conversation on how we want to redefine our success, overcome fear and judgment, and find healing when where our mental health meets money, or where money meets our mental health. I hope you will have you will help us navigate through that and break that down for us. Because here at All Mercy, we believe that your value is not measured by your income, but by your inner peace. I have no other here than our money coach, Teddy. Teddy, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation. Yeah, it's like it feels like just yesterday. I mean, it's been a week, but
It's been
I
a
was
week. It still feels like like yesterday. We are
Mhm.
recuperating from the conference.
Yeah, and it was a really great conference.
Yeah.
Just overall talking not just mental wellness, financial wellness, but community connection. Absolutely valuable, and I can't wait for next year's conference. We were just talking about it.
Next year's conference is coming up soon, soon, soon. March 28th, 2026. Yes. And Teddy will be with us again. Teddy, can you introduce yourself for us and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background?
Yeah. So my name is Teddy. I am a money coach. I'm also a social worker, and I really just help people overcome financial stress in their life, whether it's related to debt, career burnout, relationships, um, just overcoming that big hurdle of money shame so that you can actually build wealth in a way that lasts, in a way that aligns with your values, and not necessarily compromising the things that are important. And I started this business a couple of years ago as this bridge between my passion for helping people with behavior change, with just self development, and my passion for personal finance things. When I bought my first house, I was like, oh man, there's a lot I don't know about personal finance. And then as I learned that stuff, I felt in control finally of like, I know a plan I have for my life. I want to be able to share that same feeling with other people. And so hence the birth of the business.
Really? And knowledge is power, even when money is concerned.
Absolutely.
Why do so many people tie their self worth to their bank balance or to their bank accounts?
I was actually having a conversation earlier this week with a client, and we were kind of digging the layers of why do we feel this way when it comes to money? Like, what did they say? Don't talk about politics, religion, or money at work. And it's kind of this undertone of like this is a very private thing to everyone,
Hmm.
but we don't really understand like where that comes from, right? And a
Why
lot of
is it so shadowed? And it's something that we deal with daily, yet.
absolutely, and like a lot of us are raised like our parents aren't telling us about the specifics of their finances. Like they may tell us like general personal finance things, but I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I didn't know anything about my parents' financial situation. Didn't know if they were in debt, didn't know if they had retirement. I just knew we had a house or we drove these cars and that stuff.
And
But
there's food. You go
yeah,
to
dude,
school. I
and
knew about, I think we all knew about our parents' financial status. We, they were so open about it. I think it was from a standpoint, not to burden us, but to teach us how
mhm.
we need to work hard. And
Yeah, and that's
why,
awesome.
why do you think people tie their self-worth to their bank balance? Is it because society often equates success with material wealth? Because from an early age, we are taught that money equals achievement or money equals stability and respect. So
Mhm.
when our finances fluctuate, it looks like our self-worth or our self-perception also fluctuate. Would that be true?
I think so, and I think it's a few things. So I really take this lens with personal finance, money shame, through the lens of like connection and community. Who are the people around us? And a
Yeah.
lot of times we inform our like healthy or not, we
Mhm.
inform our self worth based on the people around us, how we are affirmed, and things like that. And of course, as we build our self worth and our self esteem, we want that to come from something that isn't people, but just innately, like we grow up, and that's just how we develop our identity around people. And we see like on social media, right? We have people posting their trips to Japan or a camping trip or a really nice dinner out, and we're seeing all these highlights of people's lives, and that's all we see. And we think, wow, I would love to have a life like that. Like they must be so successful, they must be doing things right. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
that comparison game informs like why we feel the way we do about our financial situation.
Right.
So I think that social media part has a big part in how we think about ourselves and compare ourselves to other people, but it happens
Especially
even
when we are
offline.
thinking that success is tied to how much we have financially.
Yeah, and we think that having a lot of finances means you just have less problems and you're just doing better in life. But more money, more problems. Or the analogy I really use when it comes to money, it's like having more money can solve certain like material problems, but really it ends up being a magnifier of any existing things. If you
Mm-hmm.
have a bad marriage with more money, it may just fall apart. If you have, addictions and you have more money, it will just like grow whatever you have. And
Mm-hmm.
now on the flip side, on a positive sense, if you're really confident in yourself, if you're, building something like a business or you're generous or whatever, having more money fuels those same things. And yeah, but to go back to the conversation about self-worth, I think a lot of us Gen Z millennials, we just are surprisingly disconnected from each other, yet we can't help but compare our lifestyles and our success in life and what that looks like.
Tying it in with money. And what are some of those signs that someone is struggling with money shame? Because especially when we talk about social media, people see only what people are comfortable posting. I have seen cases where people crop pictures, put it in some places to show that they were somewhere when
Mhm.
they were never there in reality, just to try to meet up with social standards. And it becomes a pressure. What are
Yeah.
some of those signs that you can see in your line of work where you see people struggle with money shame?
I think the biggest thing I see with money shame is that, well, one, just for those of you watching, shame is kind of this experience of like, I'm not enough, I'm a failure,
Mhm,
I'm insert, negative
mhm.
identity, right? We're ingraining our identity in something like negative. And the thing I see the most when it comes to money shame is that it's usually coupled with some kind of isolation or disconnect from other people.
Yes, yes.
And that is like really important to consider what a real connection looks like and is. It's being able to be transparent with someone, talk about like lay out your dirty laundry and still be accepted for the person you are. And by having a community like that, having just one or two people in your life where you can say, I am in a financial mess and I feel worthless, or I really hate my job and I want to quit, but I know on the surface people respect me for what I do. And it's kind of this like double life thing of keeping everything secret with money, not really being able to open and do the heavy work of addressing whatever that stress is. And so we internalize and create this echo chamber within ourselves of like, I should be doing better. I mean, all my friends are driving these nice cars or they're traveling or, they have a great family. And then we just start believing these lies that because I'm not like that, I'm a failure
Right.
or, yeah.
And it's true, sometimes some kind of competition or comparison can create growth or productivity. But to an extent, when it concerns money, it's usually about people comparing themselves negatively to others, or they just totally avoid those conversations about finances. Some people begin to feel so anxious and guilty when they are spending. Some people hide purchases from others. Some people will buy something and will not take the tag off because they want to go return them. I mean, just so that they can belong to a certain group or to a certain class or to a certain community. It just keeps the pressure going. And while we are talking about social media, how does social media make people feel less than financially?
Yeah, I think that the thing is, and it even happens with me too, both for the stuff I post and for the things I consume, that like we only get a snapshot of people's lives through social media, and it's the side that people want to see, like want to show,
What they are
right?
comfortable showing. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And like for me, if I say, I got my first house at 20, it's like, whoa, like this kid got his house, but like they didn't see what that looked like, what was behind the scenes. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stuff going on in my life too, that just because I have a house doesn't mean I was successful by any means. And just comparing the surface level things with our life where we know 100% day to day what we're going through, all the crap, all the good stuff, and comparing the average of all that to the average of all these highlights, like, of course we feel less than, right?
Absolutely, because social media is a curated highlight reel. People flaunt luxury vacations, cars, designer items, which creates unrealistic standards. And if that is what you're measuring yourself to, the pressure is just on and it just goes to negativity, because even when it's not intentional, it fuels comparison and feelings of inadequacy to the point where it touches you in a personal place. Before you know, you become grumpy, angry, sad, because you are measuring yourself to those standards and it may not even be real for them. Even if it's real for them, it is not you at that moment. Why is your value so attached to that? Or why is our values so attached to that? But again, can financial success ever truly bring self-worth?
I think it's a what an interesting way to answer this question. I will say a yes and a no, depending on how you consider financial success. I want to say
And
that
that's why when I was sent this topic, I'm like, let's have it. Money, your money, wealth, and self-worth. How
yeah.
can how can your financial success boost up your self-worth? And I'm glad you said yes and no. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So when we think about financial success, we think about a number, a lifestyle. But
Mhm.
what I think true financial success is being able to live your purpose and your life the way you want to within your means. And so that can look like a 60K a year salary and be perfectly content with, the friends you have, the
Mhm.
place you live, and a lot of people may make $300,000 and hate their life and think that they should be making more and more. And so
Right.
I think financial success is truly a subjective thing, very personal to each person.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
a lot of our self worth is more so like, am I content with the lifestyle I created? And that contentment's just based on your relationship with your own money. It doesn't have to involve anyone else. if you feel confident in how you're spending your money, how you're planning your money, being able to pursue the dreams like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Starting the business or things like that, then I think truly like when you have your finances in order, it gives you more of that space. It reminds me of kind of for those of you, this is psychology lessons getting pulled out of
Mm-hmm.
high school and college, but like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When we have our finances in order, we're feeling secure in our relationships, we're feeling secure with ourselves, all our needs are met, so we can focus on like who am I truly and can I be that person fully.
And it's still a yes and no for me, because most of the time when we venture into these adventures or into these new realms of businesses of other things, we are also looking at the financial goals or at the financial growth, productivity as well in that aspect. But if that is our main focus, or we are thinking that is what will fulfill us, it can come, but only temporary, because true self worth comes from within. It comes from our values, it comes from our identity. And you said it earlier, it comes from our purpose, not our paycheck. Because if you're living your purpose within your means and you're happy, that is
Exactly.
that is your purpose. That is what is it. Money can enhance life, but money should not define your life. It can enhance it, it can boost it materially in certain aspects, and not just materially, maybe even health wise. You can afford good health or certain things, but
Hmm.
it should not depend on it. It should not be what is defining your happiness. With that said, how do we redefine success beyond money?
I think success is based on what you truly value in life. Some people really value making an impact in the world, and that would be their mission. That's their success. And
Mm-hmm.
some people think success looks like being able to be present with their family,
Mm-hmm.
raise up their kids in the way they want to. And so, like, money out of all of this is not like something to look up to. It's just a tool. It's just a resource for us to pursue those passions and create that success for what that looks like for us. Now, some people prefer to have some kind of like luxury, like a material success, and that's great for them.
Mm-hmm.
But at the true core, like if we're really looking at the things we value our relationships, we value how we feel,
Mm-hmm.
how we can pursue our passion, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to do those things will not only keep us content with our lifestyle and all that stuff, but we can truly just build what we want out of our community, out of our career, and yeah, out of our life.
And I am glad, I will still say I'm so happy when you said it is subjective. What do we want? How do we redefine success beyond money when we focus on the impact of what the money can do for us? Not on the income, not on the money itself, but how can this money help me? How can it redefine my purpose? How can it make me impact myself and another person? Because we are measuring joy, peace, and purpose. It is inward, it is not by the money itself. Like you said, our values, time, relationships, personal growth, celebrating progress, not just the money itself. And with that, especially when we say spending within our means, do you think in the economy today, in the world today, that is a good goal? I think it is, but do you
Yeah.
think it is a goal that people can afford? Because why does it feel so guilty sometimes when we are spending on ourselves? It feels like we don't deserve it.
Yeah, I think that
Not
conversation is
just we
really
don't deserve it,
interesting.
it feels like we cannot afford it and we are doing it.
Yeah, and I've worked with a handful of clients that do feel guilty spending on themselves. I mean, I am like I also feel guilty spending on myself.
It depends on
Come
what you're spending or no.
exactly. Yeah, it definitely depends. I don't like personally spend a lot on like my own personal experiences if
Hmm.
it's just like by myself and stuff like that. And a lot of for me that guilt comes from um I want to be spending on something else, say like saving or something in like some tangible asset.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the guilt about spending on ourselves may come from not feeling worthy or even respecting ourselves and our desires.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest expenses that I really put towards myself was this business, right?
Okay.
And like for those of you who are in business, it does take a decent amount of cash to learn business, to get the materials and all this stuff.
I think
And I was
we'll
like,
have another topic on that.
yeah. And I was just like, man, I feel so selfish with this. Right. But I mean, that investment was hands down like one of the best things I could have done because it gave me this sense of empowerment over my future. I'm
Right.
actually pursuing a passion because I want to, not because it was some script that my family raised me up with. It wasn't based on, we're going to talk more about this, like pleasing other people or to present an
Absolutely.
image. Like it was truly for myself, and that is like prioritizing ourselves does feel selfish, especially if we're not used to it. But
Especially sometimes, Teddy, when some of us were raised with messages like money is tight, don't be selfish, especially when caretakers and people pleasers spending on yourself can feel like it is a luxury, even when you can afford it rather than a necessity. Do you feel like that sometimes?
I think so. Yeah, and there's just so much when it comes to and I see like the next question we're coming up on too, like similar to that.
Let me put that up. Yeah.
Yeah, breaking
Mhm.
free from this fear of judgment around money, that a lot of our decisions with money have come from other people. Like, hey, you should do this. You should buy a house. You should pursue this career. And we that just comes from right growing up and being kids and we don't know anything about the world and relying on other people and other people's guidance, well meaning of course, to guide our decisions. But kind of like the ice below the surface is that now we attach other people's opinions of how we use our money
Mhm.
or other people's opinions of how we don't use our money.
Mhm. Hmm. Hmm. Fear of judgment around money. I think one thing is it is your income, it is your money, you make your money. You want to get clear on your values and your financial goals.
Mhm.
You want to practice saying no without over explaining. I okay, I'll say this. Some people or some charities or some organizations can reach out to you like, oh, you're all mercy, oh, you're 30, you're running this business, I know you can help us with this. And maybe you can, but maybe 2025 you said, okay, $10,000 will go for your charitable things that you want to do. Maybe by the time that person is asking for that help, you've already maximized that goal, that financial spending. They don't know that. And maybe what they are asking you to spend on is not even part of your values. So we need to practice saying no without even over explaining. Because when you start over explaining, they start coming back with their own opinion and
Mhm.
feedback. You start feeling judged. Surround yourself with non judgmental people that you don't need to prove to them. They can just take your word. If you say no, it's no. If you say yes, you don't need to show them proofs of something that why you cannot do certain things. And remind yourselves that others' opinions, I want to say this like two times. Remind yourself that other opinions don't pay your bills.
Exactly. That was what I was gonna say. That at the end of the day, everyone's opinion is just like a minute, 2 minutes out of their day, and they go about thinking on what they're gonna eat for lunch, right?
Right.
They're gonna go back to stressing about why their kids are acting up. But at like you go home with you. You're the one that experiences the consequences of
Mm-hmm.
your financial decisions and also the benefits of your financial decisions. And so it's great to seek out mentors and people you trust, but not all advice is great advice for you, right? They're like family, especially or friends. They have well-meaning intentions to say,
Mhm.
you know, if you get in a house, you're not paying rent anymore, right? You're
Mhm.
building wealth, you're building generational wealth, but they don't tell you that if your AC breaks, you're gonna have to shell out $5,000 to fix it. They
No.
don't tell you that like if termites are in your house, that you would have to pay someone to get rid of it or
Mhm.
really sell your house at a loss. Like you're the one that will experience all those things, and so inform yourself with
And
information
I'll say
online and
again,
people. Yeah,
remind yourself that other people's opinion don't pay your bills.
exactly.
They can think you can afford it and you can afford it. It may not be at that time, it may not be your values. They don't know what's going on. I have seen people make $1 million a year and have nothing in savings. I have seen people make 300 and have almost half of it in savings. So it is your financial goal, it is your purpose, it is you and you. What are some ways to set financial boundaries? You mentioned family and friends. I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave you to that.
So I get this a lot with friends and family when we're going out, or say we have a birthday party or something like that, where there's some kind of expectation to spend on gifts, on food, on experiences, whatever. And this, at least for me, took a little bit of practice because my innate desire is like I want to be on level with everyone else. I don't want to be judged. I don't want anyone to look at me any type of way. And so I would go to
Friend.
like to practice setting these boundaries. It wasn't necessarily for them. It was like within myself to understand these expectations of like I can spend more money in
Mhm.
order to look better in this relationship or stuff, but it does come at a cost. And then reminding myself of like I have goals bigger than this birthday party or this wedding or this trip.
Absolutely.
Like I have goals to, build my
Absolutely.
career or build my own home, and not so much about these almost fleeting relationships. And setting those boundaries have looked like, sorry, I can't go to that
Mhm.
wedding, or, I can come and support you, but it's not, and you don't have to say this, up to you, but in my head, I'm like, it's not in my priorities to be able to give an expensive gift. There's no,
Absolutely.
and things like that. And those boundaries, I think, can a lot of times like physically be between you and someone else, but most of the time it's all in our head on what we think people think about us, you know?
Absolutely. And sometimes we are thinking that we are going to lose that friendship or that family. But if that relationship was just based on money, then you may as well lose them. Because I believe that with family and friends, they are the closest people you have. You can be honest and they can understand. Like, I'm not able to contribute to that right now, and they can understand without judging. Sometimes we can even offer alternative. I cannot do dinner out, but maybe we can go do coffee or breakfast if dinner feels extensive. And
Exactly.
yeah, and remember, if we are saying this, remember, we're trying to talk about these financial boundaries to protect your peace, to protect your peace, to not to punish others, but to make sure that you're still at peace, financial peace with yourself. It's not to say, oh, I should have given this or I'm punishing this person. You're trying to protect your peace. And if being honest with that person, for the most part, they should understand and it should strengthen that burden that you can be honest with them about your financial state. It shouldn't instead push you away. So the boundary is to protect your peace and not to punish others. And that led me to this study. How do childhood experiences shape the way we handle money? You hear some people say, oh, they didn't work for it, so they don't know how to preserve it. They don't know how to maintain it. Oh, they were given free money. That's why they can use it anyhow. How do childhood experiences shape the way we handle money?
I th- I want to share my personal experience with growing up
Thank you.
because I kind of experienced both sides of the spectrum. My mom, she didn't really talk too much about money with us, and kind of like her behavior with money was like we spend what we have. and we don't talk about money, we don't ask about money. And on my dad's side, it was very much like he's an accountant, so he's very money like numbers oriented. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, we have to think about every penny and all this stuff. And both of those kind of created this scarcity mindset for
Mm-hmm.
me growing up, to where like both I have the scarcity of money that I can't let go of this thing, but on the same time I had the scarcity of time where I'm like, you only live so long. So like trying to juggle that was really challenging. I started leaning more towards the scarcity of money, and I was really frugal. I
Mm-hmm.
became very judgmental of other people who spend money, and like, no, y'all, like, you need to just build up your savings and like be secure and retire early and all this stuff. But I realized that wasn't a great way to live. Um, there was no living in that. It's like I'm living to make money, to retire, to not work. Like it feels so empty. It feels so like surface level. And unfortunately, like a lot of our experiences are informed by how we were raised. If we saw our parents spend every dollar that we have, we
Mm-hmm.
can't help but think that is the baseline. That we growing up, we have to spend all the money that we have. Or
Mm-hmm.
on the opposite side, it's like, oh, it's not in the budget, we can't spend that. Um, or maybe even like a status thing. Everyone at Christmas buys all the kids gifts. So we have to do that too. We have to make money in the like to spend on 15 kids for Christmas.
Right.
Whatever it is. Like it's just one of those things that's the frame of mind that we have on the world. But when
Mm-hmm.
we realize that there is another way to live life, then we can actually start to uncover what that looks like and how we can personalize that to our experience.
Right. And I think is that concept of money scripts. They
Mhm.
are formed very early. If you grew up in scarcity, you might hoard or overspend. So it's still a subjective thing. Because you grew up in scarcity, you may feel like, let me just keep saving. Let me hoard all the money because tomorrow it may not be there. Tomorrow it may not be there. That mindset of scarcity. Meanwhile, another person can be like, oh, I did not have. Now I do. Let me overspend. Let me enjoy. So if money is a source of conflict, we may find ourselves avoiding the conversations altogether because it does not align with something that we want to really peacefully address. I want to acknowledge our online viewers. Thank you guys so much. If you have specific questions, go ahead and ask them. We will respond to them if we have time as we go. But thank you all for watching and being there with our podcast. This leads me to what's a powerful mindset shift to overcome money shame? I think I've talked about this before, but our money coach, go ahead.
So this may sound kind of harsh the way I say it, but I'll explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the thing that really helped me is that to believe that I'm not a special case when it comes to my financial situation, whether it is being in debt or it is just not feeling comfortable talking about money. I
Mm-hmm.
want to like most people in the US are living paycheck to paycheck. They're
Mm-hmm.
feeling some financial stress, so our experience is not unique. And that means because it's not a special case, like people understand what it's like. People understand that, they don't feel comfortable talking about money. They feel judged. And understanding that everyone else, or at least like 50-60% of the people you interact with, feel the exact same way, you know
Mm-hmm.
that you have some sort of connection community with that. And kind of the thing to combat shame and isolation is connection, is genuine community where you can have that conversation with people and know that they will accept you for who you are. You'll accept them for who they are,
Do
and
you
then
think though?
work on that.
Do you think though that it is easier to have that conversation if you feel like you're affluently, you're rich? Do you think it's easier for those people, especially in their own milieu, or especially if they feel like they can boast around other people, they are prone to have those conversations easily than those who don't have as much?
I guess it depends on the type of conversation, because I
Mm,
have met people who have all the stuff and, flaunt it or not, they post on social media, but they have their own set of problems too, right? They may feel like they have all the nice things and they're flaunting it, but deep
Mm-hmm.
inside they still feel empty, that something else is missing.
Mm-hmm.
So it could, for lower income earners, be like, oh yeah, it's easy for these rich people to talk about money because they have it,
Because they
and
have it.
then that's kind of like the point of pain comparison or whatever. Or someone who earns a lot of money, it may not be like, I don't have enough money. It could be, I have all this money, but for whatever reason, I'm still feeling empty. And it's like a
Mm-hmm.
different conversation on um, like those pain points. So
Absolutely.
um,
Hmm.
yeah, I think it wouldn't necessarily. I think it's just different problems, and it's like all like I said, it's all subjective to people's experiences with that.
Absolutely. And I want to say that sometimes it is the fluctuating concept or the fluctuating reality that we have today. Tomorrow we don't have. And sometimes the reason why we don't have anymore because we made some huge financial decisions or financial mistakes. And people just crawl into their shell when that money thing is brought up. You're not your financial mistake. I wish somebody can understand that you're not your financial mistake. Everyone starts from somewhere and we can start over and over again. We need to realize that money is a tool, it's not a measure of our value. Because if we are saying we are ashamed because we lost money or because we don't have money, let us replace that shame with curiosity, saying, what can I learn from what happened, or how can I handle this money differently? How can I handle it better? But again, I want to blend who you are as a money coach and as a social worker so we can see how we can answer this question.
Hmm.
How does financial stress impact our mental health? Yes.
Yeah. So and I think I spoke a little bit on this at the conference too, where
Yeah.
this financial stress is just like any other stress. Our responses to stress are fight, flight, or freeze. And what that looks like with our money. Say we get a bill in the mail.
Talk
Say
about
we
it
get,
about the conference. Do you give
yeah,
me permission to post your video, like the whole video?
yeah, absolutely.
People have been asking about it.
I'm actually working on some final edits
Okay.
to have the video. Hopefully by the end of today is my
Okay.
goal. Um, but
Thank
yeah, that these three responses we have, fight, flight, or freeze, are responding to some kind of financial trigger, an
you. Mm-hmm.
overdraft charge, um, a bill in the mail, whatever it is. And like, for example, fighting can look like literal fighting with your spouse or your
Mm-hmm.
boss. Flight could just be avoidance.
Mm-hmm.
It could be impulsive shopping. It could be, um, you know, binge eating. It could be whatever your vice is, or it could
Mm-hmm.
be freezing. It's just like, I don't know what to do with this. I got this bill and I'm just staring at it blankly. And or like, this is an experience that I actually had where I was stressed about money and I would literally just lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Like, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. And feeling stuck is kind of that impact outside of even like the tangible financial impact of financial
Mm-hmm.
stress. And so that has led me to use unhealthy coping,
Right.
eating, binge watching TV, um, you name it.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Mental health and money. I've seen that a lot being what I am in the mental health field. When you don't know where the next rent money is coming from, when you're looking, rent is due today, food, I need food, but I'm not going to be paid till next week. It's not so easy to just push it aside. It
Exactly.
affects our mental health. You start becoming anxious, especially if you're a caregiver or parent where your children depend on you or you have dependents. They don't understand what is going on. You can be so stressed. And when you talk about other unhealthy coping, you can even develop insomnia. You're not sleeping. Your brain is just going, thinking, how do I feed my kids? I'm about to lose my home. I'm about to lose the car. What do I do? What do I do? You start getting
Yeah.
depressed. I've seen so many people. The root cause of their mental issue or their fluctuation in mood is tied to money. It's related to money because you can
Yeah.
start having physical symptoms of agitation. Constant money worries can keep your brain in survival mode where you're just always on the alert, and it can impact your decision making and also emotional regulation because you're always, it's like you said, flight, fight, or you freeze.
Hmm.
And then it start leading to other unhealthy coping mechanism because it's not something that you can just brush aside. It's not something that you can just say, oh, God feeds the birds, God will feed me. Things are due practically, and we live in a realistic world. So, yes, financially or financial constraints can severely impact our mental health, how we plan and how we budget. And sometimes we still do our best, but we still find ourselves in trouble. Can financial trauma lead to anxiety and depression? I think we just talked about that.
I think so. And even outside of like the clinical, a clinical diagnosis of anxiety and depression, like we all have spells of feeling anxious or feeling
Mhm,
down or numb and things like that. And when it comes to financial trauma, it looks like a lot of different things. For some people, it was a ruined marriage where
mhm,
maybe the spouse hid a bunch of money and was gambling it away, or it could just be like money was used as a form of control, either
mhm.
by a parent or by a sibling or whatever, saying, you know, you can't do whatever because I have control of the money. And those
Absolutely.
financial trauma things inform like how our how we relate with money, how we use it for ourselves, and absolutely can impact how we feel,
Mhm,
like feeling anxious, feeling depressed in our job, in our work. Um, Another thing though is like even finances are, I like to think of it as like innervated in every aspect of our life. And so
mhm.
it definitely is more simple than just like financial stress equals this stuff, but it's a piece of the puzzle that we can start addressing and actually have a fair amount of control over both our money mindset and our actual tangible finances to be able to improve our anxiety and our depression. And kind of on the previous point, you were saying, I
Yeah,
can't help but still bring up the imagery of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's
yeah.
right, this pyramid, and the base level is those like survival needs, right? We can't think about the one above it until we have that one met. And so, our rent's covered, our food, all of that stuff's covered, then we can think about security. Like, are we going to be able to continue this up? Are we going to be
Right.
able to have this roof over our head still? And finances really impact those bottom two layers so that we can think about our love and relationships, our self esteem, our self actualization, or like purpose in life. And
Mm-hmm.
by being able to get financially well to support those bottom two layers of the pyramid, then we don't experience all that dysfunction on these upper layers, right? Or not as much, right?
Not as much. Yeah, absolutely. I want to acknowledge our viewers again: Jane, Judy, Rebecca, Ashley. There's a question here for you by NKLA official. Why do I feel guilty spending money even on things that I need or enjoy?
Yeah, great question. And it's similar to the one we said earlier. I think a lot of people, whether they admit it or not, are people pleasers at
Mm-hmm.
heart. And it could feel really selfish to spend on ourselves or even the things that we need, whether it's counseling, whether it's food. I see this with a lot of new parents, like spending
Right.
money on self care because they're pouring all of themselves into their kids, right? And
Yeah.
like we can't help but feel selfish because it's not our baseline. Our baseline is to give to other people,
Mm-hmm.
is to like extend more of ourselves for other people's well-beings in any relationship that we have. And
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing that they teach us in both like the mental health space and self-care is that like we need our own oxygen mask first before we can help other people. Or another way they say is like we need to fill our own cup before we pour it into others. Otherwise, like we can't survive that way. Like
No.
we'll literally lose our minds.
Right. To
And
add to
yeah.
that, I don't know if I'm wrong, Teddy. To add to that, even if it is something that you enjoy, before spending, I want to say assess your needs versus your wants. That way, we are still talking about can you afford it? Yeah, there's another question here for you by Ramina. How can we teach kids not just how to save or spend?
Ooh, I love that question. Now, I'm not absolutely not a parenting expert by any means. I only have a 4-year old, a 3-year old, but I think one of the things that really helped me growing up was being part of the money experience. Like, I thought it was really annoying at the time when my mom was like, "Can you fill the gas?" I'm like, "I don't know how to fill the gas. I don't know how to pay for gas." But like weaving those day to day adult experiences with money for our kids is one of like the easiest things we could do. And it reminds me the other day, we were at a store, and my daughter and we just wanted to buy something. I was like, "Hey, here's a card. Like you insert the chip into the thing, and I'll tell you which buttons to press and whatever." And she's just getting those little experiences with what managing money or using money looks like, even if I'm not overtly teaching her like what a debit card is or what a credit
Right,
card is,
right.
and being able to incorporate a lot of those experiences that we think are normal
Hmm.
and finding a way to do it that is age appropriate. So I actually bought this recently, so I'm gonna show it off.
Yes, please.
But I got on Amazon some fake money, one for like probably ad content, but two just as kind of a
Oh,
symbolic way for our daughter. Like, hey, you've kept your space clean, you've been well behaved. Here's $1 that you can keep and manage for yourself, and then
hmm,
show step by step what does managing that money look like.
right.
um Now,
Wait until
the
she's 10 years old. She's gonna be like, no, daddy, I want real money.
exactly, but like, oh my goodness, I saw this
The concept
TikTok.
is there, though. The concept is there.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw this TikTok though where they would give this kid real money, and the issue is that they'll lose it, they'll destroy it. So I definitely don't trust kids with real money, at least right now. So hence the fake money. But it's, yeah, really incorporating those day to day responsibilities that we think are normal. It's
Mm-hmm.
like completely new experience for our kids,
Yes.
and just weaving that day to day stuff, day to day conversation, I think is probably the best way to normalize that money conversation
Right.
with our kids, no matter what age.
Question from my team actually, and I want to ask that because so many people do that. I've realized so many people do that. Ever found yourself overspending just to feel better?
I don't think for me, not necessarily overspending, but for sure some kind of impulse spending.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I see a lot of TikTok ads. I see a lot of trends, a lot of things like that, and I think it's just really enticing to like get these dopamine spikes of, ooh, I got the thing I wanted. I've been thinking about whatever,
I'm glad you said I
and
want it, not I need it.
exactly. It actually brings up a funny story that I love electric cars. I think they're fascinating. I think it's really cool how like they drive and all this stuff. And so I was just shopping used cars, and there's this one in my neighborhood. It was a used 2013 Tesla, about 17 grand. And I had no business even testing out this car. I could barely afford it. I had the cash, and
Mm-hmm.
I loved driving it. I was like, maybe I should just drop 17 grand on this Tesla. And I was like, no, that's insane. Like, this is our emergency fund. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the dumbest decision I could be making right now. But that eagerness to get that thing exists in all of us, whether it is a really
Yeah.
big expense, or maybe you're wanting to just buy like financing your car, or
Mm-hmm.
even something as simple as buying some stuff off of Amazon on their
Mm-hmm.
lightning deals. Like, oh, this is 30% off, I'm saving money. And um yeah, just that overspending cycle or impulsive emotional spending is a trap that we get into because we purchase it, but then a day later, 2 days later,
You want
that
it.
feeling is gone,
Mm-hmm.
even if we have that item.
And I've seen so many people feel like, oh, I'm so lonely, or I'm sad, or I'm angry. I'm just gonna go to the mall and spend. And you feel that pleasure at that moment, impulsive spending, because you are attaching your emotions to what you can get. But again, maybe that same day in the evening, next day, you start looking at it, asking yourself, like, what did I just do? I know clearly I cannot afford this. And even in cases where you can afford it, you know you didn't even needed it in the first place. So,
Right.
right. So, how do we separate our self worth from financial ups and downs?
I think this whole conversation of self worth comes from like who we are, where we put our identity,
Mm-hmm,
and some people that looks like a faith, some it looks like a purpose or a mission in their life,
mm-hmm,
and by being content, like happy with the life that we've created for ourselves, is absolutely valuable for both those seasons of earning a lot of money and those seasons of not earning a lot of money. And
mm-hmm.
that's been for me too. I've had seasons of my life where like I'm getting a heck ton of overtime. I
Yeah.
have all this money stacked up, and also where I've been living paycheck to paycheck or concerned that I am only one mistake away from starting to overdraft my account.
Mm-hmm.
And in the midst of all of that, it's like, well, I know that what I'm doing right now in my life, in this business, in my career as a social work, is my purpose for me, not for anyone else. It truly fulfills like whatever my heart is going towards,
Right.
and having my identity in something that's not a number or having it not tied up in some material thing is how I, at least how I've done it. Maybe it's different for other people, but I'm the expert of my own experience, right? But hopefully that speaks to someone out there that
Yeah.
like you have a purpose in life and you stick to that, you stick to your identity of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Then the numbers, that stuff is flexible. You can move that stuff around.
It's flexible, it's intentional, and it's
Mhm.
very subjective. The truth is that events like job loss, eviction, or growing up in poverty can leave deep emotional scars. People may tend to develop financial avoidance, panic around spending, or just chronic insecurity because even when your circumstance improve, you keep thinking that it's not gonna last. The financial ups and downs are there. Sometimes, depending on your line of work, it can be subject to how the economy is going. It can be subject to your behavior or how you manage your funds. But if the ups and downs are also causing you emotional instability, then you want to affirm your intrinsic worth daily. Who are you? Let's say money was just that tool to feed you, to clothe you, to give you shelter. Ask yourself, who are you? What is your intrinsic worth? Recognize your resilience, not just your results, not just what money can do for you. Recognize how you can withstand certain things. Focus on what is within your control. What is the effort that you're putting in this? What is your mindset? What are your habits? And like I said, I love the heading when you sent me this topic.
Mhm.
Is your net worth your self worth? Is your net worth your self worth? Does that align? Is that who you are? What is your identity if you take away money? And what's that one habit, Teddy, that you can tell us, all of us here, that can immediately improve someone's financial and emotional well being?
I will say for a lot of the clients I work with, the first step is being able to have a conversation about money, and what that looks like is even knowing what exists. So I say like the monster that you see is less scary than the monster you don't. And so
Yes.
if you don't even know how much you're spending, how much you're making, how much debt you're in, it feels really scary. But
Mm-hmm.
once you kind of uncover that and see like it's still scary, like but
Yes.
at least I know what I'm working with,
Mm-hmm.
then you can pinpoint here are the areas that I want to improve in. I'm spending
Absolutely.
$2,000 on eating out. I don't like that. That's a lot of money. So
I'm going to
now
stay
I know.
at home.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And and this is kind of like an aside, but I learned this kind of like learning about like horror films. And so the things that we actually find scary is the uncertainty, the unknown, the mystery of like not seeing, say, a dark figure in the background. But once there's like light on it, or you can see if it's like clearly CGI or whatever, it becomes less scary because we know what it is. And same thing with our money, that
Mhm.
if we're able to build that awareness
Are
about
you
it,
telling
it helps.
everyone here to make sure they know their debts and to make sure they know?
Absolutely. And it is a hard process, but the fact that they're listening to this podcast and they're
Mhm.
interested in, I think y'all are all ready to do that work
Mhm.
and to face that monster and to be able to do it with someone else, whether it's a spouse, a coach, or some kind of like community. I think that will remove a lot of those perceived barriers we have when it comes to
Mhm.
money. Because once we actually make the step and move forward, it's like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. It's still pretty bad, but it could have been a lot worse.
It may still be bad, like you
Yeah.
say, but now you have a plan to work with.
Hmm.
You have a plan to work with. If you could, before we leave, if you could give one piece of advice to someone struggling with their money mindset, what would that be?
I would say the one piece of advice that I would give is that the way you're living your life in a constant cycle of stress, whether you have debt or you have savings, no matter what your financial situation is, there is another life on the other side of addressing what you have going on, and being able to take ownership of the things you can control while
Mm-hmm.
also letting go of the things you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
That has given me so much peace. I can't control the economy.
No.
I like, I can't control if my job decides to let me go, but I can control how much I am spending. I can control if I have other job options. I can control if I'm having conversations with my spouse that, aren't being had, and then identifying those areas is the most that we can do
Mm-hmm.
to build our financial life, protect our mental health, and then set like those boundaries with our family members that we talked about earlier.
Boundaries. And sometimes we are thinking that the boundaries is within friends and family members without acknowledging our own boundaries when it concerns our finances. Sometimes we have to set the boundaries within us, like you said. Do I want it? Is it emotional spending? Is it out of impulse? Do I need it? Can I afford it? Is it worth getting it? Then don't sleep at night because we have prioritized our wants above our needs. So, thanks so much, Teddy. Before you go, can you share a little bit more? They're asking questions about what you do, where can they find you, and how can we support your initiatives?
Yeah. So, pretty much anywhere on social media, you'll find me as Money Coach Teddy. So, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn might be under my full name, Teddy Nguyen. That's Nguyen,
We're going to
and Facebook and all that stuff. A lot of the work that I do right now is on a one-to-one relationship where I'm working with a client directly and uncovering like what are their spending habits, what are their goals, can we get those goals in a certain amount of time. And one of the things though I'm actually working on setting up this June is more of a robust group support model. Right
hmm
now I have a Facebook group called the Spending Detox community,
I need
and
to
if y'all,
join
yeah, if y'all want to join it, absolutely.
the
But
Spending Detox community.
yeah.
Let me
And
write.
so I'm moving that free platform to a paid one just to offer more resources and support for the people who are truly intentional, not just
Right.
the people who are drive by like looking at financial tips, but people who truly want to change their life. And it's not going to be like an expensive thing at all. Maybe I'm ballparking like $10 to $20 a month
Oh,
in terms
that's
of like a group model,
mm-hmm.
like a group community, build some courses in there and stuff. But it's really just a way to have some skin in the game to prioritize your own well-being and invest
Absolutely.
in like a community where you can be connected with people who are doing the same things, paying off the debt, changing careers, and all of that stuff, or detoxing from their spending, right?
Detox. I like that. I like that, Teddy. I'll check that out as well. And we are going to put this on the screen for people to check it out as well. And we have already established that financial work can impact your emotional and mental health. So why don't you take advantage of this? And I also see lion, lamb, money.
Hmm. So yeah, that's the name of my business. When I started this passion as a financial coach, I wanted this to be bigger than myself. I actually my one and only tattoo is right here on my arm. I can't pull up my sleeve to see it, but it is a lion and a lamb, and it marked this key point in my life where I was really taking ownership of who I was, what direction I wanted to go
Mhm.
with the things that I do. And I'm already branded, right? I got a tattoo on me, and so I kind of built that premise of like I want to be able to manage money in a way that aligns with my values, and whether that looks like coaching, hopefully in the future there'll be some kind of like bookkeeping business or a tax component to it. It's just like being aligned with the values I have and how I want to reach people is kind of where it all came from. So
Lion, lamb, money. You all know where to find Teddy, and we'll highlight that when we post the video again. As we wrap up today's conversation, I want to leave you guys with this. Your worth is not tied to your paycheck, your spending habits, or your financial past. Money may be a tool for living, but it should never become the measure of your being. It should never be who you are. Give yourself grace. Start where you are. If you feel like you've made some financial mistakes, we all have sometimes. Give yourself grace. Start where you are. And remember, success isn't just about the dollars, it's also about peace of mind, authentic connections, and a life where you live, where you fulfilled, where you align yourself with your values. Yeah, at All Mercy, we believe in the whole being, in healing, mental, emotional, spiritual, and yes, even financial. If today's topic resonated with you, share this episode, friend, leave us a review, send us your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, again, our topics here aligns with our mental health, which aligns so much with our values. So, mental health is a journey. Let us take the wheel and ride well together, even financially. Thanks so much, Teddy, for being here.
thank you. Have fun.